I'm Arjun, founder and CEO of Baton Systems. Welcome to another edition of Core Thoughts. Today, we'll be talking about DLTs, specifically the benefits that distributed ledger technologies can bring to capital markets. I'll also be talking a little bit about blockchains and the differences between blockchains and distributed ledger technology. And lastly, we'll touch about how we architected the Baton core platform on a distributed ledger technology. Let's start with the first one, which is the benefits that a distributed ledger technology can bring to capital markets. While we talk about the benefits, I think it's important to define what exactly are the inefficiencies in capital markets. The way I look at it, you have the front office systems, middle and back office systems. The front office systems is primarily your trading systems. This could be your cleared market trades or your OTC trades. Most of these systems are quite efficient. These are low latency, high throughput systems where you have high frequency trading and quant trading, basically executing trades in a nanosecond. Now this has resulted in an exponential growth in the volume of trades. Now this large volume of trades is fitting in through your middle and back office systems. What exactly are these post-trade systems, which is the middle and the back office systems? The way I like to define this is the middle and the back office systems is a set of business processes and a set of technology components that exist in a bank. Now most of these business processes and technology components have not changed in the last 20 to 30 years. Now this has resulted in quite significant inefficiencies in banking systems. And these inefficiencies manifest itself as high cost, significant delays, and third, a lot of risk to all members in that ecosystem. And this is what distributed ledger technology is trying to address. At its very core, I think there are some core constructs that a distributed ledger technology can bring to these inefficiencies. And I like to think of these as three core tenets, what we call as TWA: transparency, workflow, and auditability. Why are they important? Transparency as you relate to large volume of trades and trades that have to be executed and processed across institutions is quite important. To have complete visibility, real-time visibility into these trades across the boundaries of one financial institution certainly opens up a lot of opportunities and possibilities. While that is important, I don't think that is sufficient. This is where the workflow takes from where the transparency leaves off. The workflow effectively gives you a tool to operate and execute a business process either within an organization across legal entities or across organizations. And this is huge because you're now dealing with a shared set of data, a shared set of truth, and then be able to collaborate, two different organizations to be able to collaborate with each other on a platform. And the third part of it is the auditability. Now, when you're dealing with high-value transactions, you need complete end-to-end auditability of the life cycle of that trade or that business process. Now, this means that you need what I call a complete lineage from the point it originates to the point it terminates. And in some cases, these are long operations which can execute over a course of 30, 60, 90 days, and sometimes even longer. So to be able to draw that lineage and provide that lineage in a tamper-resistant, fully automated, auditable manner is what distributed ledger technologies can give. So essentially, the combination of transparency, workflow, and auditability really addresses the core problems, that is costs, delays, and auditability at its very core. Let's talk about the next one, which is the differences between blockchains and distributed ledger technology. Now, there's a lot of talk and noise about this, and I think it is important to kind of bring it back to first principles and understand the differences in that. Now, the way I like to explain this, the public blockchain, even the blockchain has got different flavors of it. There is the public blockchain, and then there is the private permission blockchain. The fundamental difference, like going back to the public blockchains, I think is the construct of trust. Now, in a public blockchain, we have a trustless systems, or a trust is in a peer-to-peer trust-based model. So you don't trust any one entity, and essentially the community creates that concept of trust by the use of technology or by the use of blockchain-based technologies. Now you translate, it's quite different from the permission blockchain, which actually operates in an intermediary format, where you have a trusted intermediary or a trusted third party that is helping govern the interactions between the peers. I'm not saying that one is better than the other. I think the way we should be thinking about this is that the world that we will be working towards 2030 will be a combination of both public blockchains and permission blockchains. Why is that important? Now, there are places where the public blockchain actually does work better than the permissioned blockchains. For example, when you're thinking about native tokens, now this is where I think a public blockchain's the ERC20 protocol actually does fare better than the permissioned blockchain. Now you translate that from the transition from the public blockchain to the private blockchains. I think this private blockchains, or what we'd like to, it's closer to the distributed ledger technologies, sit better with the financial networks today. Why is that the case? When you think about intermediaries, it's easy to dismiss and say that intermediaries are a problem. But in financial markets, that's too easy to dismiss that. There are some important constructs that an intermediary will provide. And let's take a moment to define what these intermediaries would be. In financial markets, you have certain intermediaries that act and help in facilitating the clearing and the settlement, or in certain parts of the life cycle of that asset movement. An example of that is a central counterparty, or a custodian, or a transfer agent, or somebody who's acting as a tri-party agent. These are important intermediaries. The other important intermediary that I forgot to mention is somebody that's issuing credit, like a prime broker. These are important intermediaries. It is not easy to disintermediate them because they do provide a value add in that end-to-end process. This is where I think a distributed ledger technology fits in better. Why is that the case? Because it brings in, again, the transparency, the workflow, and the auditability across institutions. And these are multiple organizations and multiple entities that have to interact for the end-to-end operation. And this is where I think the world of 2030 that I look forward to will have a combination of public blockchains and private blockchains. Now, this is where the Web 3.0 is starting to evolve, and I think it'll be an interesting few years to watch this evolution and be a part of this evolution of technologies. Now, let's come back to why Baton built the distributed ledger technologies. Now, we were very focused on our roadmap to solve very specific problems. What were their problems? The problem was in speeding up clearing and settlement across institutions, doing that with a spirit of transparency, speed, auditability, and everything that is required to speed up the movement of assets. Now, when we tried to solve this particular problem, we had to make sure that it fits in with existing business processes, existing systems, and existing operating rules of financial institutions. And in doing so, we realized that there were some gaps in both the private blockchains and the public blockchains. Public blockchains were not an option, so you had to go through the private blockchains. Even that had pretty significant limitations. And what were the limitations? The limitations primarily came from the fact that you had to constantly interact with systems. Let's take an example of an intermediary like a credit issuing agency. Now, the fact that you're issuing credit means that you have to talk about, does this entity have any more credit left in order to execute this transaction? You have to go in and out of the chain in a constant manner. This is where distributed ledger technologies, both private and public, actually have brittle natures of it, and it breaks. Baton built in what we would like to think of as very seamless gateways by which we are able to interact with the core systems and the core business processes of a bank. And we did bring in the transparency, workflow, and auditability constructs of the blockchain, both the private blockchain and the public blockchain, into the Baton platform. And this has been the core building blocks on which we built a few very important and complex workflows, namely the core FX, the core liquidity, the core payments, and the core collateral. I'll talk about this in more detail in a subsequent video. Thank you again for watching. We are happy to answer any questions. Please reach out to us in the contact information given below. Thank you.